Hi, everybody. This is John Barry, and I want to congratulate Joe Taylor on his 100th episode.
Hey, Joe, this is Danny Roebuck, and I just wanted to say congratulations on the 100th episode. That's an amazing milestone. I can't believe it. 100 episodes. Wow.
Hi, Joe. This is Nicole C. Mullen. Congratulations on your 100th episode. Let the redeemed of the Lord say so. Talk about it. Say so. Talk about it. That's for Joe.
Are we contributing to the lightness, or are we contributing to the darkness? Those are deep questions, that this film looks at.
Well, hello? Did that just happen? Nicole C. Mullen just sang to me. Unbelievable. Thank you, Nicole C. Mullen, Daniel Roebuck, and John Barry for your comments. They really, really mean a lot to me. I'm sorry, man. Let's just hear that again.
Let the redeemed of the Lord say so. Talk about it. Say so. Talk about it. That's for Joe.
Welcome to the 101st episode of On Faith's Edge. My name is Joe Taylor, recovering atheist and your servant in Jesus Christ. This is your place to hear conversations about God and living a life of faith in Jesus Christ. Today I have an intriguing conversation with award-winning actor, producer, and founder of Flix, David A.R. White. David is just releasing the new God's Not Dead movie, A Light in Darkness. In A Light in Darkness, a deadly fire rips through St. James Church, devastating the congregation and Pastor Dave. The adjoining Hadley University uses the tragedy to kick the congregation off campus. The escalating controversy creates a dilemma for the small church. Can Christians fight for their rights and be the light for Christ at the same time? Facing a court case and his own struggle to see Christ's light in heartbreak, Dave asks for help from Pierce, his estranged brother, a big city lawyer, and an atheist. The family reunion opens old wounds as the brothers wrestle with the questions that pulled them apart years ago. Is God really good all the time? Where is God when bad things happen? And can Christ really heal the brokenhearted? In our conversation, Dave and I talk about the message of God's Not Dead, A Light in Darkness, and what makes this movie different than the first two. David reveals some interesting and questionable opportunities offered to him and Flix since their success, his message to the church about being a light in darkness, the importance of high quality in faith-based projects, and how much of David A.R. White is actually in the character of Pastor Dave. Pat Boone was on my show, David, for God's Not Dead 2. He said that his role as Walter Wesley, he felt was one of the most important roles that he had done. Very nice, man. Very nice. Love that movie. Love the series. The first two God's Not Dead movies were very popular and actually took the market by surprise. This one seems more serious and intense than the other two.
Anytime we jump into doing these films, we're trying to figure out, it's not necessarily the story, it's not the plot that we start with. We start at the heart and the core and the theme of the movie, and the first theme of the first movie was about faith being challenged, on the college campus. The second one was about truth being challenged in the public square. And this one, we went round and round to figure out what it was, what this was supposed to be honest with you. And it's interesting because obviously God puts these things inside of our heart. He gives us these dreams, the things that we're supposed to accomplish. The things that He wants for us. But oftentimes you're at A, and how do you get to B? And for us, that's really for this one. We felt, it's an interesting time that we live in. It's just been a divisive, decade, and God's Not Dead, the tagline comes out of that, a light in darkness. So if we as believers don't step up, if we don't, make that first move, if we don't call to an end to the chaos and the darkness that encircles our culture, then who else will? And that's really, I think, at the core of what this film is about, which is, it's dark. It has its moments, Our hope was that it was authentic and organic and at the same time real.
There's a great line in this movie, David, that should make us all stop and think. The whole world knows what the church is against, but it's getting harder and harder to know what the church is for. What is the church for?
Well, we definitely address that in this film. A lot of it is based on that. Is the church relevant today in today's society? And if it is, what is it for? How does it relate to our culture? The way things are ever changing and moving. Does the church still have a place? And part of the storyline of this film is that this church built this Hadley University. It built this school, which is the case in a lot of different, built Harvard, church built Harvard, Yale. The church was at the center of those schools. And in the process over the years, what happens when that church is it relevant anymore? Does it even belong there in a public setting, in the mainstream school? And that's certainly part of the storyline of this movie.
What do you want to tell the church, and what do you want to tell the world about God through this series?
Yeah, well, I think it's summed up in my, the line that I say in the first couple of movies. I play Reverend Dave, and Reverend Dave, in the first movie doesn't have a lot going on, doesn't have he's right in how God uses him in the right place at the right time. Whatever, his car doesn't start, and the second one he has an appendicitis, but in this installment of it, the line "God is good all the time, and all the time God is good." We can say that as believers, but in reality, what does that really mean? When the tide turns, and certainly it turns for David here in this movie. He's hit with all the things that could go wrong in his life. And I think that happens in real life, when the pain comes, when the brokenness comes, when things don't go as we planned, when our kids get sick, when, we lose our jobs, our spouse divorces us, all of these different things that can happen in life. How do we respond as believers? What is our response to that? Are we acting as Christians and loving like Christ's example to us? Are we contributing to the lightness, or are we contributing to the darkness? Those are deep questions, that this film looks at, and I'm proud that they come up in such an authentic way.
The Pure Flix organization has done so much for the art of Christian entertainment. I think one thing that your organization has done is it has forced Christian artistry up a level, or 10 for that matter.
Thank you.
The message is important, and the message is first and foremost. I get it. But also delivering the message in such a way that not only the Christian will appreciate it, but it speaks to the secular world as well. Did you have any idea that Pure Flix would have this kind of an impact?
No, God put inside of my heart many, many years ago when I was a kid on a tractor to go into the entertainment industry, and I grew up as a Mennonite of all things, and my father was a Mennonite pastor. If you don't know anything about the Mennonites, I always say the joke is the Mennonites make the Mormons look like a pack of Hell's Angels. We were conservative. I saw one movie in the theater the first 18 years of my life. So for me to go into the entertainment industry, I think I was like the last person on the planet that probably should have made that trek to do that. But God put it in my heart at an early age to be in the entertainment industry, to be an actor, but also to tell stories and to do it with excellence. And the partners at Pure Flix, myself, Elizabeth Travis, Russell Wolfe, Michael Scott, we all originated in the mainstream. As much as people don't really know that, Russell and Michael did mainstream high-end commercials. That was their thing. Automobiles, mostly. Elizabeth Travis was, with Randy Travis and, in the country singing. And then, of course, I was in television, in mainstream television before I started doing Christian movies, and then moved in, and then all of us moved into producing. And I think that's why that we aspire to be excellent at what we do. I believe that God calls us to be excellent in our craft, in our art form, and whatever it is that we're doing. But also, we had an early dream to be pioneers in this industry, that it was underserved. It was also not done to the best. A lot of the producers and directors didn't come from those backgrounds. They maybe should have done something else, but instead they were making movies, which is great. It contributed all to to really the genre that has come, this Christian faith-based genre. And so we're thankful to be part of it. Our goal is to be as good as we can in the midst of the budgets that we have. Do we have $100 million budgets? No. But with the small gifts and the talents that God gives us, as well as, you listening, He just calls us to be excellent at that, and just do it right where you're at. Don't try to be brilliant, and wait until you have a budget or wait until the perfect time. I think He just wants us to put one foot in front of the other and to do our best. And, that's such a kind comment that you say, that is our hope, that people would experience that and feel that, and that's our goal, and we're honored to be part of it.
This is your third time playing Reverend Dave.
Yeah.
How much of Reverend Dave is David A.R. White?
I think in any movie that I do, life imitates art, and as much as I'd like that to not be the case, God allows certain things in our lives to build our character, to mold us and to shape us. And Reverend Dave wasn't a very far stretch, because my dad was a pastor. I certainly grew up around that, around the church, and I understood what pastors go through. And I think that's something that I like about this film, is that it's, it looks at a lot of Reverend Dave's life, and in the midst of this hardship, and people think that pastors have it all together. They think that, it's a man of God. He knows how to handle every situation, but they forget the element that pastor is human and broken at times, and going through things, that necessarily aren't the easiest, but they're like everybody. We all go through those situations. And so Reverend Dave, I hold back to, you just come back to that, the saying that we believe is true. God is good all the time. And all the time, God is good in the midst of our pain and sorrow and brokenness. And my car does start, though, most of the time.
Reverend Dave is a cool cat, man. What I like about him is he is flawed but true to his core. And he's broken but true to his core. And he's even defeated sometimes, but true to his core. What a great character you've created. What a great example you've created in this character. Well done, man. Really well done. Like these movies a lot.
Thanks.
So can we expect a fourth installment of God's Not Dead?
This one definitely was, to quote one of my favorite lines from Jerry Maguire in Up at Dawn, pride swallowing siege, It's, it was tough. It was tough. And there's been nothing easy about it. But I don't know. I don't know what's in store, We're just on our knees and asking God, what does He want us to do next?
What are you most excited about in upcoming projects?
Well, one thing I'm excited about is, I don't know if you've had a chance to go to pureflix.com, but that is our version of Netflix. And we've been doing a lot of original content there. And so we have close to 7,500 titles on there, starting to do more and more original shows. And I'm excited because it opens it up to, theatricals are so far, it takes so long to ramp up a movie. And then the time it hits the market, the whole thing, it's just a long process. But in this, when you get to make original content and make it quickly, it's fun. It allows you to be a little more creative, I think, to do different things that maybe you wouldn't do in a theater, and I think it also opens it up to a lot of other people too, to do the same thing, to follow their gifts and their callings. So I'm excited for it. Check it out if you've never been to pureflix.com, and check out my new series, Malibu Dan the Family Man.
Malibu Dan the Family Man. Are all of PureFlix, are all of the works faith-based, overtly faith-based?
Well, No, pureflix.com is a faith and family. So it's just anything that's, hopefully pure is on there.
How about your movies?
Our movies primarily are faith-based, but we make family films as well.
Any thought of going into the family-friendly or mostly family-friendly, but not or necessarily overtly faith-based?
Yeah, I mean, we're always open, I think the anytime you follow God is you say, Lord, what do you want me to do? What do you want me to put my hand to? I only get so many years on this planet, and I want to do what you want me to do. So, but sometimes that's a lot of different things you can do over the years. So, yeah, I think we're totally open to that. Let's just see how it goes.
Let's listen to the trailer from Pure Flix's God's Not Dead, A Light in Darkness.
St. James Church has become a beacon of violence and controversy. And it has no place on Hadley University campus.
How you doing?
I'm okay.
It's kind of weird. Somebody burns your church down, but you're okay.
How do we actually know that our values are any more valid than anyone else's?
I don't understand, Lord.
Seems like you're the one much is being asked of this time.
This was my father's church, and it's not for sale.
We cannot respond to hate with more hate.
You don't get to play innocent. You did this.
What you're doing, it's against the law.
It's okay to be broken, Dave. It means God's still shaping you.
The whole world knows what the church is against, but it's getting harder and harder to know what it's for.
What am I doing wrong?
David, you said before that you grew up in a Mennonite home, and I'm not sure that exactly answers this question, so I'm going to ask it anyway. How did you come to believe in your core in Jesus Christ?
I have to attribute that to my parents. I had really good parents that loved the Lord with all their heart. They named me David, a man after God's own heart, I think for a reason, and my brother and my sister for a reason. And my father's goal at the very core was that all of us just would have a personal relationship with Jesus Christ in everything we did. Wasn't whether or not we were going to be brilliant kids or, smart or successful. The only thing he really cared about was that. And from an early age, I went to church, I got saved when I was 4 years old. I remember walking down the aisle and turning from my horrible ways and becoming an on-fire believer for the Lord. But, and it's interesting because when I hit Hollywood at 19 years old, I was on a television show right away. And for whatever reason, that was easy for me. At that time, I was really strong in my faith, and my questioning time didn't come until my late 20s, when the show ended, when things stopped, and all of a sudden I found myself in this drought and going, did I believe because it was just infiltrated, I just was infiltrated by it because my parents believed it, or was that really real? And, and ironically, I think that comes earlier for most kids, but for me, it didn't come until my late 20s. And you start looking at the different religions in the world, you start looking at the different paths that people take, and at the end of it all, after studying all of those things, coming back to the realization that God is real, that God made me, He made you, and Jesus is real. And it is still at the very end of it, after all, you go through all the facts and all that stuff, it's still about a belief. You have to take that step of faith. And if you don't take that step of faith, then, you don't experience that joy, that peace, what God promises us through Jesus Christ. Is our life easy? No. But He says, I have come that you might have life and have it abundantly. And I thank God for my relationship with Him, and if you don't have that, I certainly would encourage you to look into it, read the Gospel of John, be open, and ask God to show Himself to you, and be open. And I think you'll be amazed to see what He does in your life. And I've had a lot of friends that have come to the Lord that way, and it's always, God is real.
I think you alluded to this earlier, but I want to explore this a little bit if we can. When you say you came to Hollywood, do you mean the entertainment industry, or do you mean the physical city of Hollywood?
I mean the physical city of Hollywood, California, and the entertainment industry. I mean, I just jumped right in, and didn't know any better, didn't know anybody. Met a guy in a bathroom that I found out about an acting school, and he said he had a place to live, and so next couple of days later, I moved into his single apartment in Venice, on Venice Beach, and I lived in the kitchen. I had a little one bed. I put that in the kitchen. There was about 3 inches between me and the fridge, so you could barely fit your arm in there. And then he lived in the living room, and we proceeded to do a bunch of odd jobs on Venice Beach, and I pursued Hollywood.
And the oddest job was?
Oh my gosh, I've had so many odd jobs over the years. I think during that time it was I ran baggage, those little bag carts to the airports. I got hooked up worked for U.S. Air. And then I also was I was a waiter at some of the hotels down there by the airport in Venice. And but my oddest job, I think, was I played Barney the dinosaur, and in South Central in Compton, and I had to drive. This story is actually in my book. It's because it's ridiculous. Between Heaven and Hollywood, Chasing Your God-Given Dream. If you ever wanted to read about these crazy stories, but this one in particular is I pulled up. You're not wearing a head, but they say, well, when you go to a party, you're supposed to be wearing your head. You're supposed to be full costumed. There's gangbangers on the corner. Had to walk in to this house. A little girl answers the door and says, "You're an hour early." And I was like, huh? This is my first job ever. I was a party guy. And then I ended up having to go in there and sit with her uncle, who I swear had a Glock in his pants. And I kept my head on until the little girl came up and she says, you could take your head off because I know you're not real. And that was absolutely one of the worst experiences of my life. But I made it through.
You were shamed
God's grace.
By a 7-year-old
7-year-old, yeah.
As Barney the dinosaur.
Fantastic,
yeah. Man. Fantastic. Yeah. In Hollywood, both the place and the entertainment industry, have you ever had a time, and through your Christian walk, David, have you ever had a time where you doubted your faith or even the existence of God?
Yeah, that was my mid-20s, That was my question of faith and trying to figure out if what I believed was real or if it was something that was made up by my parents and by the church and all of that. But I'm here today to say that, and I went through those years of soul searching and trying to make sense of it all, and that God is real. He is good. And Jesus Christ is who he says he is. And I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man comes to me but through the Father, which is what Jesus said. And I think that's it.
In the entertainment industry, David, Pure Flix, by the nature of what it is overtly faith-based.
Mm-hmm.
Even so, have you ever had a time where you were forced with a decision to set aside your faith principles for the sake of expediency, profit, making an impression on somebody?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, we have a lot of those things that come up, and at one point in time in my career, I was working on, producing some other type of entertainment, thrillers and horror, and and you end up getting some bizarre partners. We had a drug lord that wanted to be a partner with us and fund us, and and you have that question of, well, the money is, I think, is money evil? No, it's how you use it for good. So did we take the drug lord's money, that came in this box of cash, or do you, turn it down because of principles? Well, we turn it down, just in case you were wondering, because we didn't.
This
think
money
that was
did
right.
not make Samson.
Yeah, exactly. We've had alcohol companies that want to sponsor us, and hey, if you put this in there, then we'll give you this huge sum of money, and we're faced with those things that, those are pretty easy ones to say no to, but we've had our share of ridiculous, colorful stories like that. Early on, when all the studios wanted to partner and to basically, also start faith labels, we took this meeting. Michael Scott and myself took this meeting at Regent or Regency, one of those two companies, and we're sitting outside in the waiting room. And, they screen the trailers ongoing. And so the trailers start running, and we start realizing that this is a gay and lesbian network. And they're running these trailers for these movies. And as we're sitting there, we're like, somebody failed to tell us this, before coming in. So sure enough, before we could leave, they brought us in. And as we're sitting there with the guy, and he's telling us how the company wants to get into faith films, and we're like sitting there listening to this. But that's the irony, is that Hollywood looks at the money. They don't look necessarily, they're not biased, and Hollywood is biased, let's just be honest, but oftentimes they're not biased enough to say, they're like, if there's enough money there, they're like, well, wait a second, maybe we can make this work. We can make this work with you guys, and we'll give you control and whatever, and that's another one of those things about, you take that money. I don't think so. I don't think that's right, but not to say that they can't go off and make faith films, and we'd love them to make faith films, but Hollywood has there's so many stories and things that have happened to us over the course of I think our 14 years in Pure Flix that are funny and not so funny. I think our year 2 and 3 we went without a salary for almost two years, and I learned that my wife really did love me and at the time, and it's so you just never know. It's funny.
The movie is God's Not Dead, A Light in Darkness. David A.R. White, thank you so much for hanging out with us today.
Hey, thanks for having me.
I really appreciate it. God's Not Dead, A Light in Darkness is in theaters right now. Check out the movie's website at godsnotdeadmovie.com. That's godsnotdeadmovie.com. If you want to know more about David A.R. White, I'll put his website and social media links in the show notes at onfaithsedge.com/101. That's onfaithsedge.com/101. If you want to contact me, I'm most active on Twitter at @4JoeTaylor. That's @4JoeTaylor, FORJOETAYLOR. I love bringing you engaging conversations about faith. If this show entertains you, encourages you, informs you, or brings value to your life in any way whatsoever, will you consider financially backing the show? The best way to do that right now is to use any Amazon link at onfaithsedge.com. We'll get a modest commission from the purchase, but it doesn't cost you a penny more. Well, that'll wrap up today's show. Thank you, David A.R. White, for being with us, and thank you for listening. You mean a lot to me, and you mean a lot to this show. Remember, God is real, He loves you, and so do I. God bless.
Thank you for listening to On Faith's Edge. You can subscribe to the show via iTunes, Stitcher Internet Radio, or your favorite podcast app on Android, Apple, or Windows devices. To reach out to Joe or leave comments about the show, visit onfaithsedge.com. You're important to us, and we would love to hear from you.
What the heck? Let's just hear that one more time.
Let the redeemed of the Lord say so. Talk about it, say so. Talk about it. That's for Joe.
Well, you certainly have a lot of irons in the fire right now from...
Yeah, I'm so sorry.
That's all right.
Hold on. Hey, Mike Scott, I'm on the radio, for crying out loud. Can I call you back? Yeah. That's Mike Scott, one of my business partners. at founders of Pure Flix.
Yeah.
Anyway, he
How about
apologizes to all the On Faith's Edge's folks for calling in the middle of our wonderful interview.
No sweat, man. No sweat.